This is the brand new ASUS ROG Phone 9 Pro, and this is a nice glimpse of what Android is going to be like in 2025. The Snapdragon 8 Elite inside of here is insanely fast. Like, it's so fast that it's beating out the A18 Pro inside of the iPhone 16 Pro, which is incredible. Like, Android chips or Snapdragon chips generally don't beat the best of Apple, but it's finally here. And I think a lot of people, when it comes to performance, especially gaming, are going to absolutely love Android phones in 2025 for that specific reason alone. Now, this is a gaming phone at the end of the day. They have toned down the design a little bit. Like, it looks a lot like the previous one, but they changed some of the design elements to tone it down. But yes, it still looks like a gaming device. Now, it does have the anime matrix on the back of the phone. Now, I'm not a big fan of it on laptops. I think it looks very, very cheesy on their laptops, like on the G16, for example. But on the phone, I really dig it. Like, it just looks so clean. You don't see it when it's on. The phone just looks normal. But when it is on, it gives you useful information, like glanceable information. It gives you the battery life. It gives you the time. You can customize it with whatever you want on the back. You can even have music go up and down, like the beats while the music is playing, which is kind of a cool visual indicator. The entire back is made out of Gorilla Glass. Same with the front. It's Victus 2. It's a bigger phone, super slippery to hold. So thankfully, it does come with two cases in the box, one that completely covers it, and the other one is a little bit more open so that you can always see the anime matrix. Now, this is a very, very big camera bump, but I feel like this is pretty standard on most phones these days, so I'm not going to dock any points on it. But there's a lot going on here. So, for example, on the side of the phone, you have two capacitive buttons on the top. Like, these start vibrating when you're pressing them when the phone is on or if you're playing a game, and it's just a lot more comfortable to tap than rather using the entire screen. You have your power button, volume rocker, and then on the bottom you have your SIM tray, and then you have your Type-C port, combo audio jack. This is a dual SIM phone, so you can have two SIMs inside of here. And then on the other side is another Type-C port. So this is clutch, because if you're holding the phone like this and you're gaming, instead of having the cable stick out of the right side and be kind of in the way, you can plug it in the bottom and then you have a cleaner experience. It also allows you to connect their cooling fan. This comes with the 9 Pro. It comes in the box, and it gives you two additional buttons at the top. This does light up, so you have RGB, and it does keep the phone cooler. Like, I noticed a difference in terms of temperatures. I didn't notice a huge performance difference, but it definitely felt cooler. And this is great because a lot of you buying phones to game on, you want your phone to feel cool. Also, they kept the Type-C port on the bottom, so you have pass-through, and then of course there is a audio jack as well if you don't want to use the one on the side, again, to have that cable in the way. Now, this display, probably the highlight of this phone, is 185 hertz. That's insane. Like, most laptops these days don't have 185 hertz. Like, there are 240 and so on, but most of them are still between 144 and 165. But 185? That's crazy. Now, it's not always at 185 hertz. Like, you can't set it in the settings to be 185 all the time. It's only when you're playing games through Game Genie. The highest you can set it to manually is 165. But the first thing that I noticed, like just playing with the phone, is how fast it feels. Like, having that high refresh rate plus the Snapdragon 8 Elite just makes this phone feel like it's on crack. I cannot explain it to you. It feels faster than it is. And you could have the fastest chip in the world, but if it has a high refresh rate like this, the phone is always going to feel significantly smoother. Now, the software experience is pretty clean. You can use their specific icons. I got rid of them. I don't like the gamery vibe it gives me. I like it to look a little bit more minimalistic. Of course, you have the Android experience by swiping to the right and having all the news. Then, of course, you have your menus, which look pretty standard on most of their devices. Now, the only thing I don't like about ASUS phones is their update schedule. I don't know how many updates this is going to get, but I imagine it's probably not going to get too many, which is something I don't like. I don't think they're promising like 6 or 7 years like Samsung does. My guess is 2, maybe 3 years max. The only other downfall to this display, though, is that it's 1080p. Now, quite frankly, I don't notice a massive difference in terms of its clarity, just because the screen is so small already and the pixel density is still really high. It's really hard for your eyes to tell probably one of the reasons why they got 165 hertz on this. It was just a lot easier to do at 1080p, but it gets bright, like 1600 nits of SDR brightness, but it can go all the way up to 2500 nits peak brightness. So if you're watching HDR content, you're going to see that peak brightness kick in small little windows on the display. What's also interesting is that this entire phone is IP68 water resistant, but it's also IP69K dust resistant, like completely dust proof, which is fantastic to see. But one thing that really shocked me is that you can buy this phone with 24 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. That's crazy. Like, most laptops don't come with 24 gigabytes of RAM. They usually start with 16 these days. But the phone's not perfect. Like, if you're looking for a good camera, there are a lot better phones out there. The front camera may have a high megapixel number of 32, but it doesn't take the best pictures. It looks smoothed out, very over sharpened, loss of detail when you compare it to something like the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Even the front facing camera can only shoot 1080p video. It can't even hit 4K. So right now you're looking at the front facing cameras on the iPhone 16 Pro Max and the ASUS ROG Phone. Look, the ROG Phone can only do Full HD 30. You can't go up to 4K for the front facing camera, but the iPhone can obviously do 4K. Lots of sun behind me, so you guys let me know which one looks better, how is it handling the highlights, and more importantly, which one has the better microphones. But the good news is the battery life is incredible. Like, there's a 5800 milliamp hour battery inside of here, and it comes with a charger that can charge this thing up to 65 watts. But battery life was so good. Like, easily, this is a 2-day phone. In fact, there was a moment where I wasn't using the phone for like 3 days, and I just left it on, and the idle time on this was just incredible. Like, I could come back to it, pick it up, and still have tons of battery life left. But there's a lot of cool little software features on this phone. Like, for one, you can go into ASUS's Armory Crate, which plays a very loud noise, and then you can change it between different modes. So, for example, X mode will push the phone to its full capability. Like, you're just going to have insane performance. Dynamic is basically going to be optimized for everyday use, depending on what you're doing. And then ultra durable was just going to give you like the best battery life as possible by nerfing some of that performance. But if you scroll down, you have the option to completely customize the Animatrix display, which is incredible because you can even play games in the back of the phone, if that makes any sense. So like, if you're not connected to the internet and for whatever reason you just want to play like Speedrunner, you can absolutely do that. And there's a ton of other little games that you can play on the back of the phone. Besides that, you can do other things too. Like, you can easily shift the display area where you want the game to basically extend to. And then of course you can customize your cooling modes for the AeroActive cooler, which goes on the back of the phone. Now the rear cameras. You do get 3 of them, a 50 megapixel wide lens, a 32 megapixel 3x optical lens, and a 13 megapixel ultra wide lens. Now, just like the front facing camera, it's a very capable camera, but again, it's not going to win any awards for taking the best pictures. Now, obviously during the day, it's going to take photos just fine. Again, I'm giving you context against the iPhone 16 Pro Max to see where it stands. And what I can say is sometimes it overexposes the image. Sometimes it adds a little bit of purple hues to the pictures, and sometimes it's lacking a little bit of oomph. Like, it doesn't feel as contrasty as the iPhone. Not that it should be super contrasty, it just feels like there's not enough color there, for example, okay? And you'll probably have to play around with that in post. I also found the iPhone just did a better job in the shadows. Now, you can shoot with the ultra wide lens. It does a 0.7 times crop, whereas the iPhone can go wider at 0.5 times, but this can only do 3 times, like clean, whereas the iPhone can do 5 times clean. The cool thing about this phone though is that it can zoom up to 30 times, whereas the iPhone can only zoom up to 25 times. And again, the iPhone still looks better even when it's dynamically zoomed or digitally zoomed all the way in. Nighttime shots is the exact same thing. Again, the iPhone takes better shots. Again, this is not a comparison to the iPhone. I'm just giving you context. This does, again, a decent job, but it's not going to win any awards for taking the best pictures. It just lacks that detail in the shadows. It doesn't get bright enough. But again, if you need a decent picture, this thing is absolutely going to handle it. Now, just like the iPhone, you can shoot in 4K 30 or even higher if you really want to, but the advantage to the ASUS ROG Phone is that it can actually shoot in 8K. 8K footage at 30 frames per second. It's great if it's a very bright day, but I don't suggest using it at night. Now, look, if your goal in life is to have the best gaming phone, this is probably it right now. But this is expensive. Like, I don't have the exact price right now because today's the embargo, so it's probably going to be really expensive for this device just because you're getting the latest Snapdragon 8 Elite, plus you're getting a crazy high refresh rate and a lot of storage and a lot of RAM. If you're into gaming and the only thing you care about is having the fastest Android phone for gaming, this is one of them right now. And it just absolutely does a fantastic job when it comes to performance. But again, if you're just gaming sometimes and you don't care about having the best gaming specs, you can save yourself a lot of money by buying a normal device because a lot of them out there are very capable of playing games just fine. The camera system is decent. The battery life is fantastic. I really dig the anime matrix display on the back. It's a solid phone, but it really comes down to price. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.